Oh, hey guys, god damn it, we're back again. Thanks for tuning into the program tonight. The program, hope you're all having a lovely day. Hope you're all doing well. As for the gaming industry, they've been having what's been called, and it's been so long since it's happened I had to look up the term, a good week. I know, shock and awe, it's pretty insane, but don't worry, we'll get deep inside and find out what's going on. And let's start off with a quick recap of the week, which was filled largely with, what was that term again? Right, good news. First, just to have a bit of fun, let's check in on that story from last week about Bethesda's ridiculous attempt to cash in on the success of the Fallout show by ruining the PC version of Fallout 4. How's that going? Well, it looks like some mods have been updated to work with the new next-gen update. Oh, great. So what's that looking like? The two most popular mods get rid of the next-gen update, so take from that what you will. Nice work, as always, Bethesda, giving customers what they want. Next up, on a more serious tip, we got confirmation that Space Marine 2 will, thank God, feature multiplayer. Many worried that the long-awaited 10 years plus in the making sequel to the cult Warhammer 40k action game hit Space Marine would skimp on features from the original, but rejoice, brothers, that is not the case. Both 3-player campaign co-op and multiplayer will be featured in the sequel that comes out this fall, I think September. Oh hell yes. Also, in big news this week, Hades 2 has entered early access. I don't typically recommend playing or rather paying for early access, but in some cases like Gloomwood, Witchfire, a few others, early access can be awesome. Such seems to be the case with Hades 2, as many outlets are reporting it already feels fantastic to play, so that is excellent news for Hades fans everywhere. If you're interested, you can find Hades 2 in early access on Steam, the Epic Game Store, or your favorite torrent tracker, whichever does it for you. And finally, rounding out the good news, seems like Nintendo has finally seen fit to descend from their ivory tower to confirm what's been obvious to everyone else for quite some time now. There is a Switch 2, and it will be unveiled before next year. Oh, wow, so shocking, Nintendo, but hey, you know, we're trying to be positive here, so it is good news that they finally did come out and confirm that. Great. Moving on, sadly, the past few days have also brought us some bummers, namely the news of the closure of another 4 studios. First up to get the axe was Arcane Austin, who made, among others, Dishonored, Prey, and Deathloop. Deathloop was mid, everyone knows how good Dishonored was, but a lot of people missed Prey. If that's you, I recommend you go back and check it out, it's fantastic. Not to be confused with the 2006 game of the same name though, which was also good, but for very different reasons. Unfortunately, Arcane Austin also made Redfall, however, which makes their sudden closure a little easier to understand. Not easier to stomach, but easier to understand from a business perspective, at least. Besides, from all accounts, it does look more like Redfall's catastrophic state upon launch was far more the result of poor corporate leadership than it was any failure by the devs. Wow, that's a crazy, unique story we've never heard before. Wow.
I think I'm gonna have a heart attack and die from that surprise.
Also getting F this week was the studio founded by Resident Evil creator Shinji Mikami, Tango Gameworks. Yeah, another beloved studio responsible for such jams as The Evil Within, Hi-Fi Rush, and Ghostwire Tokyo. I know a lot of people passed over Ghostwire Tokyo, but I really liked it. Anyway, rounding out the list of studios kicked to the curb with all employees sent to the poorhouse were Alpha Dog Games and Roundhouse Games, formerly Human Head Studios, who are actually the guys who made the 2006 Prey. Some devs will be sent to work on other Bethesda games or on other projects for ZeniMax Studios, while even more will be sent to the local DHS office to file for unemployment. Thanks, gaming industry. Just always looking out for the people that make your money, right? Finally this week, since we mentioned the Romhack Chrono Trigger Plus in our last video, today I want to highlight Secret of Mana Plus, a hack of my favorite game of all time. Secret of Mana Plus includes 40 new maps, 3 new bosses, 11 new monsters, plus it also makes the Wind Palace, Gold Isle, and Moon Palace fully playable. If you're not a Secret of Mana head, that might not mean anything to you, but if you do know about it, trust, that's a big fucking deal. I wouldn't recommend this if you haven't played the original yet, but for those of you who have and are looking for a more expansive Secret of Mana experience, so to speak, you can grab this at the link down below from romhacking.net. Alright, moving on. For our main story tonight, we're going to go back to cover something I actually made a video on a few years ago, review bombing. And we're going to do that because the concept of review bombing is back in the news due to the whole Helldivers 2 fiasco. Our story begins a little over 2 years ago, around the time when Last of Us 2 was releasing, and as many of you may recall, there was quite a large to-do about it. Many people were very upset for many reasons, some pretty legitimate, and some very much not. Eek, a lesbian! Yes, many of those aggrieved customers took to the review sections of places like Steam and Metacritic to let their displeasure and dissatisfaction be known. What a nightmare, I know. At the time, naturally, I was very supportive of that, but many legacy media outlets and the like were, shall we say, less so. And those customers were quite successful. Successful at having their displeasure be known, but that's about it, sadly. Instead of any positive results, their feedback was maligned and smeared as little more than an attempt at Gamergate 2.0, which I'm sure a good amount of it was, but also an even larger amount of it very much was not and was simply sincere criticism. Either way, industry mouthpieces, of course, ran with the Gamergate narrative, and that was the end of that. Fast forward a few years, and here we are again with Helldivers 2, a surprise banger that caught everyone off guard with just how good it was. And like any game that massively exceeds expectations and flies off the metaphorical shelves, it was immediately thrown into complete disarray by greedy corporations' attempts to exploit all the fun out of it. Heading up the disaster this time was Sony's catastrophic decision to attempt to force customers to use a PSN account to access it, even on PC. This naturally, like most anti-consumer, greed-motivated decisions in this industry, spiraled completely out of control, causing the game to temporarily be pulled from over 177 countries, mass public outrage with over 200,000 fans review bombing it 27 floors into the basement, and eventually it resulted in its community manager, known as Spitz, being fired for the high crimes of siding with customers. How utterly typical. What was not typical, however, was that this particular review bombing campaign ended with positive results. Yes, surprising everyone, including me, this was one of the few times when public outrage and customer feedback actually swayed the monolithic video game industry. Over 200,000 fans let Sony know that this move was unacceptable via the only means they had available, user reviews, or if you're an establishment hack fuck, review bombing, and they changed course, miraculously. My, look at that. Review bombing suddenly isn't so bad, is it? Now all of a sudden, outlets are changing their tune. Why the change of heart, guys? Don't forget this, G's. Don't let them tell you that it doesn't work, as they will certainly try to. Normally, pushback on review bombing is little more than an industry trying desperately to control the framing surrounding a product, as they always do, in order to ensure profits meet expectations. It's little more than that. They can't allow what is essentially mass public action to be legitimized, or they lose control of their industry. Wonder if that has any corollaries to real life. If they don't protect their narrative and successfully gatekeep independent voices and opinions out of legitimacy, then their monopoly on every aspect of gaming is jeopardized. If they allow independent opinions they can't control to be viewed as valid, well, then all of a sudden they may have to actually put real money and effort into developing products that please their customers. What a nightmare. And as we can surmise, that likely would be far more costly than what they do now, which is simply setting a narrative and stamping out predictable and lazy products from a mold on an assembly line without any additional thought or effort into creating something that, I don't know, might be compelling and perhaps sincerely please their customers? So if you didn't buy into my premise 2 years ago, maybe you will now. Review bombing is good, and we should all keep doing it.
That's good.
Think about it. What is the purpose of a game review? It's essentially feedback. It's to let others know how you feel about a game. Places like Steam and Metacritic are really minor social platforms for sharing feedback. As long as you're upfront with the premise of your feedback, any review can be valid to someone. Your opinion still counts, even if it applies more to a publisher or dev's business practices than the game specifically. It's still an accurate representation of your experience or feelings about a game. And even better, it can often be an expression of an entire community's sentiments about a game or the people that made or sold it. If you're a potential customer looking to make a purchase decision, how much weight you want to put behind those particular appraisals, well, that's for you to decide for yourself, not a sad AI regurgitating PC Gamer articles on MSN.com or some hack fuck writing agitprop for outlets like VG247. Maybe, I don't know, a publisher completely ruins a remake of a classic game by over-monetizing it and splitting it into 3 parts, and you want to let them know how pissed you are about that by leaving, God forbid, a negative review. Is that illegitimate? No, not at all. Or perhaps maybe months after launch, a huge publisher, let's say Sony, decided that PC players of an insanely popular game, I don't know, Helldivers 2 maybe, suddenly had to register and log in with a PSN account in order to continue playing, and that decision was met with an overwhelmingly negative response from customers. Is it not their right to express that? And how else could they possibly do that without the ability and a place to leave negative customer impressions? Maybe the industry would like it better if we called it that instead? User impressions? Is it okay that I share my feedback now? User reviews are simply a representation of people's opinion on their experience with the game, and as long as they are honest about the premise of it, they're all perfectly legitimate. Ultimately, review bombing is a result of industry behavior and business practices, not the other way around. Whether it's critics being intentionally disingenuous or the sudden implementation of anti-consumer systems or policies in a game or service, Review bombs are nothing more than feedback, regardless of how the industry might try to label them. They're an audience being aware of the fact that critics and publishers are serving their self-interests and not those of the consumer as they're supposed to, and letting the corpos know how they feel about it in what is essentially the only option available to them for doing so. How much weight someone's opinion or a stack of negative reviews has is subjective to you, the customer, the person spending their money, and you get to make that decision for yourself. Not Metacritic, not Rotten Tomatoes, media industry mouthpieces, or anyone else. Review bombing is good, G's, and we all need to keep doing it.
Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then I'm back down. Back down. What? Woke up, smoke up, blunt, then I pass out. Pass out. Woke up, what up, smoke up, blunt, then